welcome to Manch Talk. I'm Tammy Garthwaite.
Hi guys, I'm Carla Garrick. Man. Okay, I'll start with I have a blinding headache, so I'm gonna make it through this, and then I gotta go walk the like. Louis started a new job on Monday, so our schedules are just like very, you know, it's very disrupting because you're used to certain things.
And then you're like, oh wait, what?
And so today was just weird because it's usually my day to walk the dog, and it's not a problem. But I had a showing in Portsmouth at 9 a.m.
Yeah, so that's a whole
and so
day.
Anyway, so the dog is at the neighbors, so they get to play.
And you have a headache.
And I have, I mean, yeah, it's
brisk.
It was like
really
it was
brisk.
16 when I woke up. I want to say it was really
brisk.
cold.
I'm glad that we don't have 4 feet of snow, so I'll take brisk.
Yeah, there is actually, you know, I never listened to the weather or any of that stuff.
No, but there was Buffalo got like 4 feet of snow.
Well, we're gonna get snow tonight. They were actually sanding the roads, and I mean, they're saying maybe 3 or 4 inches. So I don't really even know. I think we have so much salt now that they're just like, wee! We got to get rid of this because it's in budgets, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't use it, you're still ordering, and
craziness. So here we are in December, because it was not December the last time we were here. Yeah, wow, end of the year. You were gonna say. Okay, so this morning I was listening to, so I can give a little updates here. The New Hampshire House and the New Hampshire Senate, the newly elected members were sworn in this morning, and they do Organization Day. When I had left, they had just brought in the senators, and I guess they're gonna. I think today they still do the House like the rules.
Okay.
I say that, and then I'm never really sure if that's actually today. I don't remember.
I want to know is. I posted this super early this morning on Twitter, but I was like, I want to call the time between last night, I guess, whoever the legislative body
is.
At midnight.
It's the grace period there. They're that miracle period of like 10 hours.
They're no longer elected officials, and then the new people are sworn in at 10 a.m. So I think we should call that time in between the time of maximum peace. Like we should call it something.
Because nothing bad can happen.
Yeah,
right?
But also I think it just shows sort of the hubris of the whole system, right? Like it's kind of like, you know, like, yes, you're this elected official and, you know.
I mean, especially here in New Hampshire, it is just people. I mean, there's 400 state reps and 24 state senators and the executive. Yeah, you got a lot of people. It's not that special here.
Well, it's that, but also I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I love it.
I think that's a feature, not a flaw.
No,
right?
I agree.
Because you know your neighbor.
Right.
You literally your rep can be your neighbor.
Exactly.
Right? You see them at the grocery store. You get to interact with them. You can call them. You can, you know.
There was some background drama going on in the Republican caucus over the speaker's race prior to today, which was part of the reason I turned on to see what was going on. There was.
Did they vote today?
They did vote. They there was.
I don't know what happened.
I know there was. So the caucus had met a week or so ago, and the Republican caucus. The Democrat caucus picked Alexis Simpson. I know she's got 2 names, but Simpson. She's from Concord. I think she's been in there for 4 years. They picked her as their speaker nominee, and the Republican caucus picked Sherm Packard to be their nominee. And then after the fact, Representative Kim Rice, for whatever reasons, decided she was going to challenge Sherm for the speaker's seat, which was not going to go well because it was going to be another one of those Sean Jasper things where she would have had to get all the votes of the Democrats. It was not a good thing for Republicans. There was a lot of pressure, I will admit. So when I was watching, Lisa Mazier from Goffstown nominated Sherm Packard, and Kim seconded it. So that was nice. It was a nice gesture. And she got up there and she said, I'm sure you all think that the clerk just made an error, but no, I'm up here to say. So she did say after a lengthy and not colorful, a boisterous discussion in assurances, she had decided that he was the best choice, but whatever. So it was, they took
Do we know what some of her core issues are? Because you guys might have heard her just gloss over the assurances language over there.
I know, yeah, right. Who knows what they were?
They, you know, these things happen, something, somewhere, someone gotta give, you know?
I don't know. I mean, she's, you know, I wouldn't say she's an uber conservative Republican. She's, you know, more mainstream Republican maybe. Her biggest, the big to-do, she didn't run last time. Like, she ran this time, but she took a term off. She voted against the parental rights bill, and she got a lot of backlash on that.
Oh,
and that caused her to not run because she was done. But then she came back.
Okay.
You know, so we'll see. Who knows what those assurances could be all sorts of things. But they took the vote. So I am going to say this. I was glad to see that 389 of the 400 state reps were there. So only 11
good job.
were. That was like very good. 388 of them cast ballots. So I don't know where that other person is. 7 were left blank. 17 were scatter. 202 for Sherman Packard, 162 for Simpson. Which means all the Simpson did the motion to pass one ballot. You know, you do all the things. Sherman Packard's speech was basically, we're going to disagree on policy, but there's no reason why we have to be toxic to each other.
Oh, good.
So that was his thing. Like, can we just not, like, be so mean to each other? Sharon Carson was elected Senate President. No surprise there. And then when I had left, they had just brought in the Senate because then they do joint and they elect the Secretary of State and they elect the Treasurer and things like that. So that was nice because you got to see
Who'll be Treasurer?
I assume the same person. I don't
actually
I
know.
don't know.
I know
Right.
Scanlon is.
Scanlon will be. I mean, it doesn't
Secretary of
usually.
State,
There's
but-
usually. I mean, a couple.
No,
of
it's more just we should know who the treasurer is
Yeah.
because they probably
I feel
have
like
the
I
keys
should
to
know
the
that,
money.
and I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the treasurer just balances the checkbook.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, and of course here in New Hampshire we have the EC
So that's
as well.
nice to see. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the treasurer actually has any major decision making. They just process the monies.
Or the fact that we don't know who that person is means it's uber important.
Right. So that was that. I also. Okay, so I read an article because we were talking about neither of us are really paying attention to anything. So
I pretended I brought the newspaper, which I literally haven't even read yet, but I tried. Apparently, we are the mecca for smuggled cigarettes.
Yeah, what is up with that?
Dun,
Like,
dun,
I'm
dun.
like, okay, whatever. I read an article yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Maybe it was on Facebook. I don't know. The Manchester Library is going to stop charging late fees for books that aren't returned.
So that's interesting because Tammy and I talk a lot on this show about incentives, right? And so initially when you said that right before the show, I was actually like, oh, good, because here's my one Manchester Public Library story.
Right.
Was for years I've wanted to have a library card. I'm a big reader, although I do struggle to finish books now. I think everyone does, maybe our attention spans or time or whatever. But I finally opened a library card. I took out a bunch of books. The lady at the desk told me, oh, don't worry, we don't really do late fees or something. I will send you a reminder and some email and whatever. And so I took the books back the first time, and then the second time I was like, oh, they send you a reminder, and then they send you another reminder, and I was kind of like, and I was traveling. So when I got back, I went to the library, and then I had like $20 in late fees.
And you're like, wait, I'm confused.
And I was like, okay, first of all, I'm coming to the library so that I don't spend money on books, and now it's costing me probably more than like 5 Kindles would have cost me.
Right.
Because, you know, I was traveling and the rules weren't really clear. So here's what I do know. If you don't have late fees, what is the incentive for people to bring the book
I'm
back?
trying to bring up the words because it kind of bugged me, and of course I can't find it. So,
because if you don't bring the book back, even if they charge you for the book.
So after 40 days, so
Okay.
this is the thing, supposedly. I don't know if it's after 40 days late or after 40 days. If an item is not returned within 40 days, violators will be charged the replacement cost of the item. So, lots of things. So, in the thing that I read, which I can't seem to put my hands on, the library said, well, it's not part of our mission. Part of our mission is to make it
books accessible.
Makes accessible, right? And that it was a deterrent to lower income patrons to have to pay late fines. And I thought, that doesn't even make any sense. I think we're encouraging bad behavior. I think it is very reasonable if I loan you this thing for free and you have to give it back to me by such and such date, that you be responsible with this thing and return it when you're expected to return it, regardless of what your income status is, regardless of whether you're a born in America person or you're an immigrant or a refugee or anything. This is the way it works. We're loaning you this free item, you return it.
Maybe that part isn't being made clear in a way that perhaps it should be. I think sometimes we do tend to be like, oh, everyone knows how this works, and if you're from somewhere else, maybe you don't.
Well, but maybe we need to start telling people how things work.
Well, I'm more like, is this method better, or like should there be like a plastic cover on the front of the book that you put a red piece of paper in that has the date it has to come back on, or something that is like extremely clear what needs to happen.
Why can I never find anything when I want it? But I just don't think. I just think there's too many people in our society that we're making excuses for.
Yes.
For simple things.
Well, simple things that you can actually describe as
responsibilities,
or you can. I mean, I know I'm putting on my legal hat, but you could do it from a contractual perspective, right? So as we navigate through time and space called life, there are deals you're constantly making, right? Like you're constantly trying to, if you're operating in a proper way through this time and space, you're probably trying to meet your words. So if you're working with people, you should actually not be like Carla and take back your library books on time, right? And then of course there is the financial penalty for if you don't do it. But I think I agree with you. We're being extremely
making it sound like people can't function. Like,
lenient in a way where it's like it's not serving anyone. Because the more things you let slide, the more everybody lets everything slide.
And okay, I'm going to jump to a completely different subject, but it's constantly, and I've said this for like 6 months now. What is up with the freaking drivers? What has changed that all of a sudden nobody can drive? So a mutual friend had posted a video. I don't know if you saw it. And he was at a traffic light, and he posted that like a reminder: the green light is permission, not safety. And I thought, oh, what is he doing? So he's sitting at this traffic light, and his light turns green, and he starts to go, and somebody goes flying through and almost hits him through the red light, and he happened to catch it on his dash cam. And I thought, yeah, this is crazy. And then like the next day he commented, it happened again. So I'm like, okay, for one person to have 2 instances of somebody running a red light in front of you is a lot. So then yesterday morning at like 8, it was early, maybe 7, 8 o'clock, there was a rollover accident near Trinity High School. And I'm like, how do you roll your car on like I don't understand how you roll your car on a city street. So that happened, and I commented on this post about the red lights. And then later in the day, there was another rollover accident, I think on like Lincoln and Valley. And I'm like, I don't even know how you roll a car. Like, what do you have to do to roll a car just going down the street? And then I saw that Will Infantine had posted over the last few days that he was heading south on 93, like in the Bo Hooksett area. And he said he had to go to the bathroom, but he was only 10 minutes from home. But he decided he was going to get off at the rest stop. And he goes to get off at the rest stop, so he's no longer in the lane he was in. And a car is coming down the highway the wrong way in the lane he was just in. So had he not gotten off, and I'm like, yeah, it's every day. People going the wrong way on the highway.
I literally, on the way home to drop off the dog before I came here at Bridge and Elm, a car turned into the oncoming traffic, I'm going towards the west side. I'm going west on Bridge, and someone turned from Elm into our lane. So you're not even on the right side of the road.
And why is this? I mean,
So I will say this. We could go back, maybe the AI can help me find this clip, but I know for a fact during COVID, we had discussions where I said, if in 2 or 3 years' time, the car accidents have gone up by magnitudes, then perhaps I am calling it like I see it, and I'm right in real time. And they have gone up. There was a long newspaper article last week actually talking about I think it was like a 37% or something. Don't quote me on the number, but it was like high. It was like noticeably high of traffic accidents. And I think it could be a lot of things, but it could be, you know how you roll a car near a school? You have a stroke while you're driving because you're like,
I think if this was a younger person, I do think it has something to do with COVID, but I don't think it's a medical thing. I think just like people have just seemed to have gotten dumber, like and more gullible, I think
that can be a medical thing too.
But I'm just saying, I think we conditioned people to act differently and I think the COVID time frame plays into it. People weren't driving. It doesn't even it just doesn't make sense to me that so many people could suddenly be so incapable of doing something that we've been doing for so long. And these aren't new. It's not like it's all 16, 17-year-old kids that you're like, okay, they're just stupid and they don't know that they can't bank a corner at 70 in the city. This is just everybody, it seems. And I'm like, good Lord, what are we going to do with that? We can't even, like now you don't even want to go. You got to like inch your way out at a green light to make sure there's not some guy flying up the road. I mean,
yeah, I will say, and honestly, I mean, I will definitely book it if it's yellow.
Oh, me too. I'm not saying I'm super slow, Nancy here.
So no, but what I mean is I do.
Allegedly,
one might say, hypothetically, one might run a red light from time to time.
But the light isn't red, and you're continuing.
But I will tell you, when I'm running a red light and I see two guys come behind me, that is the issue, right? Like I will only do it if I know I can't stop safely, like if it's snowy and you're like,
I understand that
or like if my wheels are about to go over the line, right?
My father always taught me, as long as the light was yellow when it was above your head, you were fine.
But sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't have done that.
That
and
was
then I'm like,
much.
oh, whoa.
But three people behind you are still coming.
So maybe we could all take a chill pill as we go into the holiday season and be like, you know what?
At one point on Monday when we were driving home from Wakefield, Dan was in one vehicle and I was in another vehicle, and we had I had to make he had to get gas. I had to make a stop at the grocery store. So he called to say he was home, and I forget exactly where I was. I was somewhere in the Candia range over there. Like maybe is it between Exeter and Candia, like that Brentwood? I had come down 125, so somewhere in there. And I said to him, "Oh, I'm in this way." And after I got off there, so somewhere in that range, there was an accident on the other side of the road. You could see there was no traffic coming through. So I was like, "Oh, what's going on there?" And now I'm driving, and I'm not a slow driver. Like, I'm probably still doing 70 or so. I'm careful. I'm not like a maniac zooming in and out. This truck comes up behind me, and I'm thinking, dude, how much closer are you going to get to me? Like, you understand? And I kept thinking, and do you not see the traffic on the other side of the road because there's a major accident?
Right.
And that traffic went all the way back to Manchester, like to the point that I was like, oh, yeah. Any of you getting on you need to all get off because you ain't going nowhere. I don't know what it was, but all I'm thinking is like, where is everybody in such? I don't mind people driving fast as long as they're driving, as long as you're. But these people who feel the need to get right up on your tail, like you're creeping down the highway at 75, and they can't wait another second to get around you.
I think it's a mindset too. I for the longest time was that sort of impatient driver. Definitely when I was doing long commutes, in the East Bay or whatever. But I think it's when you rebalance yourself in a way. So the best way I can explain it is the following. You know how your seatbelt bings if you don't put it on, right? So it'll bing, bing.
Or if you have heavy packages on your seat, apparently.
Oh, really? So think someone's sitting
Yeah,
there,
I'm like,
and
okay.
so then you have to put. That is what I resent about safetyism. It's like at some stage it actually becomes like it makes a full circle back to
Yes.
literal stupidity. And I will say, any kind of child safety product
It's
in
usually-
America. So I don't know if Americans know this, but honestly, like if you go anywhere else in the world, you can open medicine bottles. You can actually understand that a bag isn't a suffocation tool
I
for
know, it is
babies that have
absurd.
to have a warning like this. Like the idiotocracy, the level of pandering
Yes.
to stupidity
Right.
in this
and
country.
people not being responsible for their own actions. Like, that's a perfect example. Like, I understand.
But it's actually devolution of progress.
Because
it's like
you're not
we have
having to
cars
think.
that can drive 300 miles an hour, but we're telling everyone to drive 60. We have bottles that can open or lighters that can work. Do you know when I moved to America, for like the first 6 months, I was just like, America's weird. Nothing works. Like I would buy a lighter
Everything's
and I'd be like, this lighter doesn't work. And then like, and then because it had that stupid thing
Special
you have to
thing.
push in the back to make.
Yep. Well, that's like the
And people feel like, oh, the immigrants are dumb.
No,
I'm like, no.
the clicker that you need to start your grill because the grill things never work, right? And you're like, okay, so I've got to. What do I have to do? And you're like,
So you're taking things that work
and making them
you're
too
making
complicated.
them
Yeah.
not work because you're
Somebody-
overprotecting.
Right.
Because like some child one time suffocated on a
But I mean, but
on
you're
a
not-
dry
well,
cleaning bag.
Back to it, this all ties back to like the library fees. Well, what are we teaching people if we're holding their hand for every
Right.
single moment of their life? If you can't open a Tylenol bottle without some protection, like you never have to stop and think if you should
Or-
be closing the bottle to protect your child.
Maybe I'm too dumb for America. Maybe your bottles are so sophisticated
No.
that we, the
No,
poor
we
immigrants of the
just-
world, don't know how to use things.
We
It's-
depend on other people to protect us from ourselves way too much.
And that is a mistake because you know what? In the end, from an evolutionary perspective, we are here to survive.
Right.
And if you don't
have
people,
any skills.
So here's another example. So in New Hampshire, pedestrians have right of way.
To a degree.
So I'm like, okay, that's great. But here's the actual reality between a metal machine and
Yeah.
a meat bag is if those
They-
two
you look-
things
the-
collide, only one of you is getting hurt.
Right.
So even if you have the right of way,
Doesn't mean
I
you can't-
suggest you look
Right.
where
Well,
you're
and
going.
and I think, and I might be wrong, but I remember somebody pointing this out to me, and I was like, oh, I had no idea because everybody says pedestrians have the right of way. They have the right of way, but they don't have the right of way to step out into moving traffic.
Right.
So there's a
and,
difference.
I mean,
You have a right of way, there's no traffic coming and you're crossing the road, you now have the right of way. That does not mean you have the right of way to step out in front of traffic because you want to cross the road. So,
right, but also if you do that,
You're
likely
dumb.
things are
You're
not
just
going to
dumb.
work out for you.
you probably
right?
can flip your car too.
So it's this. Jonathan Haidt wrote a really good book about this. It's old now, maybe like 3 or 4
Yep.
5 years old. Even the coddling of the American
Yep.
mind. And so there was actually now science saying, "Hey guys, maybe we should stop doing all of this because it is not serving people." And look. If I was king for a day, queen for a day, I'd be like, can kids stop wearing pajamas to school?
Can adults stop wearing pajamas to the grocery store?
But
I never understood that.
No, but with the kids, it's just like we're just setting them up
to be
to,
not
to,
adults.
to be sloths
Yes.
their whole lives, right? Like there's no expectation of anything,
Right.
and that is not.
It's not.
You're actually doing the children a disservice.
You are.
Because people want to have purpose, and they want to.
And I mean, I can appreciate when people say, "Well, we want our child to have freedom of expression." Okay, but good luck with a job interview on that.
Because here's the other thing: is I think we pick the wrong things every time the state gets involved. They pick like the wrong thing, right? So I actually think like uniforms at schools
I think are a good
serve
idea.
a purpose,
I
right?
think
So
so,
people
too.
will say, well, but then I'm just a cog and whatever. And
then
it's
you're
like,
not
no,
distracted
you're
by,
just exactly,
You're not distracted
right?
because Susie's, chest is hanging out in her butt, and
so-
Johnny's got nicer clothes than you.
So they picked individualism for how to physically express yourself instead of going with the socialism of a uniform. But that was like the wrong pick. They should have done it the other
agree.
way around, right? So as we identify those things, why don't we actually go back and change things? Here's the reason why. The minute someone decides on something, now it's an absolute, right? Because
Right.
someone has written it into law, therefore it must have been right, because otherwise the government's wrong all the time. So then the stakes become, back to incentives, become, well, I guess I've got to be really vested in this terrible position, and we've just got to lean into it for 100 years. I
Right.
mean, the Bellamy pledge, right, that people say in American schools, which is a socialist pledge
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with America, but that every child says at least 2,000 times
Yep.
by the time
Without
they get out of
thinking about it.
school, right? And it's like, why do we? It's like socialism. I mean, the government, statism, almost invariably picks the wrong thing because it's trying to build consensus, and so the worst things are the ones that just kind of flop around in the middle, and then everyone's like, oh, let's do this thing, and then now we're like vested in schools
Right.
instead of learning.
Right.
Right.
We target the wrong thing. I do want to, before we run out of time, remind people that there is a Christmas parade in Manchester this coming Saturday. I believe that's the 7th. It kicks off after the Santa Shuffle, which is the road race, which is always fun to watch because there's all these Santas running down the street.
That explains a very weird trip.
It's probably 4 o'clock, so 4 to 5, 4 to 6, I don't know, like that. It will close Elm Street. I know that always perplexes people that they're surprised that Elm Street's closed for the parade and the shuffle and all that stuff. So, like, if you need to get from the west side to the east side, you probably got to go Queen City and down around, or you have to go up to Amoskeag up and around. You won't be able to go across Bridge Street or Granite Street and get across to Elm Street for the most of the afternoon on Saturday.
We have a big FSP volunteer thing, I think, on Saturday. Is that in Plymouth? So something's happening. I won't be in Manchester. I know that much.
That's it. We're out of time. They're giving us the, hey, it's out of time. We'll be back next week. If you're out there, remember that it is the holiday season. Be nice to your neighbors. Be nice to the people in the store. Be nice to the people working in the stores. Life's too short to be angry all the time.
Yeah, don't run those red lights.
And don't run red lights or flip your car.
Bye, guys.
Bye.